Right, so in today's video, it is finally time to actually get a plan in place for autumn lawn care to get all the different lawns ready for winter. Now, it is only the start of September and the weather is pretty glorious today. However, we do need to get a bit of a plan in place and start making a few steps now to make sure these lawns are ready to actually survive the winter, which can often be quite damaging to a lot of lawns. And the first thing you really want to be thinking about is the actual length of your lawn. If you think about a grass plant, the actual blade itself is what stores the energy for the plant. As we get through winter and we have a lot more shade and a lot less sunlight throughout the day, that plant isn't able to make enough food for itself really, so it has to survive on the reserves that it currently has. If you keep your lawn too short, then your lawn's really going to struggle. You're going to get a lot of dieback across the space. It's just generally not going to be good. So it's key to start almost now bringing up that height of cut slowly over the next month or so. Now, I've been cutting this lawn at 15 mil over the summer, and currently it's at about 18 mil because this week I've just slowly brought that height of cut up, and I'm going to continue to do so until this is anywhere from sort of 25 mil even up to 30 mil, because the more actual sort of plant that there is, the more resilient it's going to be through winter. And especially in my garden, where you can even see now we've got quite a lot of shade over this side encroaching in, so even this part of the grass now doesn't really get a whole lot of sun. It gets a little bit throughout sort of the evening, but not a lot through the day. So it's vital now for me to start thinking about getting that grass growing a little bit longer. Now, this lawn out at the front is a different species of lawn altogether. The one in the garden is Ben Fescue, or both of them are, should I say, whereas this one is ryegrass, and with ryegrass you get lots of vertical growth. So what I've done this year, just to maintain it more easily, is to cut it at a little bit of a higher length. So this has been getting cut at around about 30 mil now for the past few months, and if I'm going to be really honest with you, this is the length I'm kind of going to keep this lawn at throughout the winter, because 30 mil is already fairly long for grass through summer anyway, and there's enough grass blade already there to actually give the lawn the right sort of energy that it needs to survive through winter. And with it being at the front of the house, it gets a lot more sunlight, and when I've left it this length in the past, it survived pretty well. The next thing you want to be considering as well is how you're actually feeding your lawn over the next few months too. So with it being early September at time of recording, it's a little bit too early to be getting on and feeding these lawns with an autumn winter mix, because the weather through September is pretty decent. It's almost like early spring, so you know it's quite warm, get a bit of rain, so you don't need to be jumping the gun to those other mixes just yet. You still can get on with the spring summer mix, but what you want to do is put down a little bit less than you have been doing through the summer. And again, the reason for that is very similar to, you know, the reason we gave for keeping the grass a little bit longer, and it's to make the plants a little bit more resilient. If you think about it, through spring and summer we feed the grass like mad, we give it a lot of the stuff that it needs, and then when it gets to winter, sometimes we put one feed on and then we pull back and then just cross our fingers and hope that the actual lawn survives to the next spring. But what is a good thing to do is to actually reduce the amount that you're feeding the lawn when it comes to the likes of late August, early September, because then you're encouraging the plant to make its own foods, for those roots to go down and find those nutrients itself without being supported by 1,000,001 products. The beauty of lawn care is you can take a relatively naff lawn and make it look amazing through summer by chucking loads of different things down, and that's great, but you want your plant to be resilient as well. You want it to be able to survive even with renovations and things taking place. You don't want to overfeed the lawn, because it's going to become almost too reliant on those products, and you're going to find yourself spending a fortune through winter. But also as well, you can risk just doing more damage to your lawn by forcing feeds onto it when it starts to struggle as we get into sort of November, December and into the winter through sort of January and February too. And trust me, I know, because these lawns have been a disaster in the past. And talking about feeding the lawn, a product that you're going to want to have on hand is an iron product, something like a liquid iron that you can spray down as we get through into the winter. We're obviously not going to have the sun to evaporate a lot of that moisture that's sitting on the grass blades, in the soil profile. So for a lot of winter, the grass is going to sit there in quite damp soil, and the grass blade is going to retain a lot of moisture as well. Now, depending on the type of lawn that you've got, this being Ben Fescue, there's a lot of grass plants there, and it can be a little bit susceptible to disease. However, if you put liquid iron down onto your space, what it's going to do is going to dehydrate the plant. It's going to dehydrate any moss that starts to appear. It's going to dehydrate any fungus, any kind of disease that it gets, and it's going to keep your lawn looking nice and green, but also keeping it disease free. There's not really a one size fits all for this. It's not like you need to put it down every single month. It's you going out looking at your lawn and thinking, do we need to put iron down today? Are there little spots of disease? Have we just had a really wet spell and I need to dehydrate that plant to make sure that disease doesn't start to grow? One thing that I'm absolutely going to be doing as well through autumn and possibly through winter too is hollow tine aerating the lawn. Now, something like this can be quite expensive. You can buy cheap ones and they're not always as good. You can modify them to make them decent, and I'm sure there's some newer sort of cheaper alternatives out there. But what this is going to do, for those who don't know, it's going to take cores out the soil. It's going to leave little holes knocking about. A lot of people might be in the same sort of position as me, where they've got like a new build house and the garden's really heavy and thick with clay. And the issue with clay is through summer it can be rock hard, and through winter it can just hold onto that moisture again, creating more disease. It causes the roots of your plants to rot, and that's why a lot of the time you get a lot of dieback on your lawn. But by taking those cores off the soil, what it's going to mean is it's going to enable that soil just to breathe a little bit better. It's going to allow some of the moisture not to just sit stagnant in the lawn, and also it's great for that bacterial development in the soil profile, which you want to continue sort of taking place through winter. Every time it rains, that water obviously soaks down into the soil and it's squeezing out air every single time. So by aerating it, you're incorporating that oxygen back into the soil. And with this garden, you know, having quite a few high walls knocking about and it gets quite a lot of shade, this is going to be fundamental. And another thing we can do as well is get out with our scarifiers and scarify the lawns as well. Now, if you saw my previous video where I unboxed this machine, I spoke about how I'm going to be using it to scarify the lawn, but also as well to verticals it, because both operations are almost exactly the same with very fine differences between them. I know I'm going to get hate for that in the comments from someone who's going to give me half a novel on the differences, but trust me, they're both metal, they both cut vertically, and they both rip up thatch, and for the most part cut stolons and rhizomes too. So let's not all die, it's going to be fine. The science says we're okay. But what we've got obviously is little blades on the bottom of the machine. We're aiming to take out any of the thatch that we do have in the lawn. Well, the perfect lawn will break down that thatch so that there's not really much of a layer there, but with most sort of modern new lawns, they can have quite a bit of thatch in them. So it's definitely a time to get on and scarify your spaces, and that leads us on to everyone's favourite part of autumn, and that's renovating. I'm certainly going to be doing some renovation work on this space over the next few weeks. I've not entirely decided exactly what I'm going to do to it yet. With this being predominantly ryegrass with like a little bit of fescue mixed in there as well, which obviously knits together the sward, I've not decided whether I'm going to be overseeding it yet. I'm absolutely going to be scarifying it to actually thin out the sward a little bit because it has become a little bit too dense, but I will decide once I have scarified it whether I'm going to get on with any more seed, because often if you have a ryegrass lawn you need to be overseeding usually once a year and quite often twice a year. But with these two lawns I'm not going to be bringing seed anywhere near them at all, and that's just because of the nature of the types of plants that they are. Once I get on with that scarifier and vertically cut the lawn, it's going to nick the stolons, it's going to nick the rhizomes, it's going to cause the plants to begin to multiply, and that's naturally going to thicken itself back up anyway. So there's my autumn plan then for these lawns over the next few months to get them surviving through winter, because that is essentially what it's all about. It's not about having the greenest, most dense lawn in, you know, October, November and December, but it's about actually helping your lawn to survive and getting it to the other side of the new year, getting it to March, getting it to April in a fairly decent condition. So the videos are going to be coming thick and fast on this channel over the next few weeks. It is the time now to start renovating whilst the weather is quite nice. If you are planning to verticut, if you are planning to scarify, then it's going to be key soon, because you are going to want to give your lawn sort of sufficient time to recover too. So thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, feel free to give it a like. The Instagram, as ever, is in the description below, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing. We've got lots of lawn care stuff on this channel, lots of garden renovation stuff as well. And finally, thanks for watching.